You don't rise, you default. You say you have standards. You say you know what you should do. You've thought about it. You've defined it. You've even felt clear about it. But then the moment comes. Not a big moment, a small one. You're tired. You're distracted. You're uncomfortable. Something feels slightly off. And instead of rising to what you said you would do, you default. You scroll. You delay. You soften. You explain it. You give it time. You tell yourself it's not that serious. And just like that, the standard disappears. Not because it wasn't real, because it wasn't built into your behavior. That's the part most people miss. You don't rise to your standards, you fall to your habits. And if your habits don't match your standards don't matter. This plays out in every area of your life. You see this everywhere once you start paying attention. You decide you're going to wake up earlier. The alarm goes off, you feel tired, you hit snooze. Not because you changed your mind, because your habit is to remove discomfort. You decide you're going to stop texting first. Then the silence feels uncomfortable. You reach out anyway. You decide you're going to enforce a boundary. Then someone pushes slightly. You soften it. You decide you're going to stay consistent with something you started. Then boredom shows up. You stop. In every situation, the pattern is the same. The decision exists. But the habit overrides it. And over time, that creates a gap. A gap between what you say you do and what you actually do. That gap is where inconsistency lives. Your system runs what it recognizes, not what you prefer. Your brain is not designed to execute your best intentions. It's designed to run what's familiar, what's practiced, what's efficient. It recognizes patterns, not preferences. So, when a situation appears, your system doesn't ask what you recently decided, it asks what you've done before. It looks for the fastest path, the lowest resistance, the most practiced response. And that's what it runs. That's why change feels difficult, because you're trying to override a pattern with a decision. And decisions don't hold under pressure unless they're supported by repetition. Habits are built around relief, not results. Most of your habits were not built intentionally. They were built through relief. You felt something uncomfortable. You found a way to reduce it. And that reduction reinforced the behavior. You felt bored. You grabbed your phone. You felt anxious. You avoided the situation. You felt uncertain. You delayed the decision. You felt tension. You softened your stance. Each time, the relief made it easier to repeat. And over time, that response became automatic. Not because it creates good outcomes, because it reduces discomfort quickly. That's the foundation of most habits. This is why knowing doesn't change anything. You already know a lot. You understand patterns. You can recognize behavior. You can see what's happening in real time. But knowing doesn't replace a habit. Awareness doesn't override repetition. You can be fully aware of what you're doing and still do it, because awareness happens at the cognitive level. Habits operate at the behavioral level, and behavior is driven by repetition. So until your behavior changes, your awareness just becomes commentary. You watch yourself do the same thing again, and that's where frustration builds. Your response to discomfort is your real standard. You don't see your real standards when things are easy. You see them when something feels uncomfortable. That's where they show up. That's where they either hold or collapse. You say you value consistency. What do you do when you don't feel like it? You say you value boundaries. What do you do when someone pushes back? You say you value discipline. What do you do when you're tired? That's the real measure. Not what you say, what you repeat when it's inconvenient. You've trained yourself to escape too quickly. The pattern is not random, it's trained. You've taught yourself to exit discomfort quickly, to reduce it as fast as possible, to avoid sitting in it, to move away from it. And because you've repeated that response so many times, your system expects it. It anticipates it. It prepares for it. So the moment discomfort appears, the response is already loaded, already ready to go. That's why it feels automatic. Because it is. You don't need more motivation, you need new responses. Motivation doesn't fix this. You can feel motivated and still fall into the same pattern. Because motivation doesn't replace habit, it temporarily overrides it. And when the motivation fades, the habit returns. So, the goal is not to feel more motivated. It's to change the response, to take the same trigger and attach a different action to it. That's how patterns shift. This is why you keep restarting. You've experienced this before. You start something, you feel good about it, you follow through for a few days. Then something small happens. You miss once, you break the pattern once. And instead of continuing, you reset. You tell yourself you'll start again tomorrow, or Monday, or next week. And that reset becomes the pattern. Not the behavior you were trying to build, the stopping, the restarting, the inconsistency. That's what gets reinforced. And every time you restart, you make continuation harder. Continuation is the skill you're missing. The real skill is not starting, it's continuing. Continuing when it's inconvenient, continuing when it's boring, continuing when it doesn't feel rewarding, continuing after you slip. That's what builds stability. That's what builds identity. That's what builds habits. Because habits are not built through perfect streaks. They're built through repeated continuation. Small repetitions are more powerful than big decisions. You don't need to overhaul everything. You need to repeat small actions consistently. Small responses in the same situation. Small adjustments in behavior. Those are easier to repeat, easier to maintain. And over time, they build momentum. That momentum turns into automatic behavior. And automatic behavior becomes identity. You have to stay in the moment longer than you want to. This is the practical shift. When discomfort appears, don't exit immediately. Stay a little longer, not forever. Just longer than your habit wants you to. If you want to quit, wait. If you want to scroll, pause. If you want to soften, hold. That small extension changes the pattern. It interrupts the automatic response, and it creates space for a different action. Environment shapes your default behavior. Your environment either supports your habits or works against them. If everything around you make your old habits easy, you'll keep falling into them. So, you have to adjust your environment. Remove friction from the behaviors you want. Add friction to the ones you don't. Make the right action easier to access. That's how you support change. Identity is the result of repetition. You don't become someone by deciding to be them. You become someone by acting like them repeatedly. That repetition shapes your identity. It changes how you see yourself. And once that identity forms, your behavior follows it. That's when things become stable. This is how standards become default. Standards become real when they stop being decisions, when they become habits, when they happen automatically, when you don't have to think about them. That's when they hold under pressure. That's when they don't collapse. That's when they become part of who you are. This is the real shift. You don't rise to your standards, you fall to your habits. So if you want your standards to matter, your habits have to match them. That's the work. Not deciding better, repeating better, not thinking more, operating differently. Because once your habits change, everything else follows. Thank you for watching. This is MindStickz.